My teacup was warm in my hands. The room was too bright, and Mara's smile was too perfect.
She doesn't understand any of this. We can speak freely.
I watched 3 executives react in a way Mara didn't notice.
Relax. She's harmless.
My throat went tight, but my face stayed calm.
Just nod, Evelyn. Don't make this weird.
And right then, I realized the dinner wasn't about family. It was about control. I could still hear Mara's earlier warning in my head. Smile, be pleasant, and please don't talk too much. Her tone was helpful, like I was a child with bad manners. In that private room downtown, I finally understood the real goal. Keep me quiet. Keep me small. Keep me convenient. Let me go back. Start from the beginning. My name is Evelyn Hart. I'm in my late 60s. I taught literature in public school for decades, which means I spent my life reading people. And still, I missed the one person I should have seen clearly. My husband, Raymond, died 5 years ago. One day we argued about paint colors. The next I was signing papers with shaking hands. Grief doesn't end you, it just rearranges you. And sometimes it leaves you standing in your own kitchen, invisible. Raymond and I were married for decades. We had plans that lived on sticky notes and someday. Trips, coastlines, museums, food we'd never tasted. After he died, those plans became a folder in my desk drawer. I opened it when I couldn't sleep. Like touching paper could touch time. Our son is Ethan. Ethan is smart, driven, the kind of man who turns anxiety into ambition. He built a consulting business that grew fast, faster than his attention, faster than his marriage could hide its cracks. Ethan married Mara Sloan. Mara is polished, efficient, always 5 steps ahead of the room. She can compliment you while making you feel like an unpaid intern. They have 2 kids. Chloe, my granddaughter, bright and dramatic. Noah, my grandson, all elbows and speed. After Raymond died, I threw myself into them. Not because they needed me every day, because I needed a reason to keep showing up. I did pickups, packed snacks, sat through school events in folding chairs. I told myself I was helping, and for a while it felt like love had a place for me. But slowly, Mara started making small comments.
Oh, you're here again.
She'd say it like a joke, like I was silly for noticing the sting.
We're trying to keep things calm tonight, Evelyn.
Calm, meaning less of me. I adapted. I asked before coming over. I waited for invitations. I stopped dropping by with surprises. I made myself easier to tolerate, and I hated how quickly that became normal. Ethan didn't see it. He traveled constantly for work. When he was home, he was recovering from being gone. He thought silence meant peace, and Mara let him believe it. Here's the part that matters, the part that became my edge. Chloe got obsessed with Korean dramas online. She'd curl up beside me and narrate everything like a director. She repeated phrases, laughing at my pronunciation. I laughed with her. And then one rainy afternoon, I noticed a flyer at the library. Beginner language classes. Conversation practice. It's never too late, it said. I signed up, quietly, privately, like it was a small rebellion against my shrinking life. The instructor was Diane. Warm voice, sharp mind. She made mistakes feel like progress, not failure. I loved that classroom, loved being bad at something again, loved having a goal that belonged to me. I practiced daily, sticky notes on cabinets, flashcards on my nightstand, a language app that chirped at me like a tiny coach. I even found a conversation partner online, Hannah, Twice a week, we traded words and stories. Hana taught me cultural cues, respect language, hierarchy. She taught me how a sentence can carry honor. One night, Hana shared a saying about elders. I wrote it down carefully, and I felt the irony like a bruise. Because in my own family, I was being treated like clutter. I told no one about how serious I was. Not because I was hiding something wrong, because it was mine. And because Mara had a way of turning my joy into a nuisance. Around that same time, Ethan started chasing a major partnership, a Seoul-based technology group. He flew there more than once. He said they valued family presentation. Those were his words. But Mara heard something else in them. Opportunity, leverage, a stage. 3 weeks before the dinner, Mara called me.
Evelyn, I need a favor.
No greeting, just a task.
Big business dinner next Friday. Executives are flying in. They asked about parents. So, you're coming.
My chest lifted anyway. I hate that it did.
Dress nicely. And listen. Smile. Be pleasant. Don't go on about teaching or books. Don't bore them.
There it was again, her version of kindness. Control with a ribbon on it. The week crawled. I chose a dark dress and pearls. Shoes low enough not to offend. I didn't want to be noticeable. I just wanted to survive the night without being corrected. Friday came with cold rain. Ethan picked me up. Quick hug, quick gratitude. He looked exhausted and hopeful at the same time. Mara sat in the front seat, scrolling. She glanced back like she was inspecting a prop.
You look fine.
Fine. That word followed me into the city like a shadow. The restaurant was modern, wood, stone, soft gold light that made everyone look important. A private room behind a sliding door. 3 executives stood when we entered. Mr. J, Mr. Min, Miss Sora. They bowed slightly, respectful, immediate. It hit me how long it had been since anyone rose for me. Ethan introduced me as Evelyn Hart. Mr. J bowed deeper and expressed condolences for Raymond. His tone was sincere. It made my throat tighten for a different reason. We sat. Food arrived in waves, small dishes first, then grilled meats, stews, heat and spice. Mara played hostess, smiling like she belonged in the room. Ethan did business, hungry for approval. And I did what Mara wanted. I stayed quiet. I nodded. I made myself small. About an hour in, the executives began speaking in Korean together. Their shoulders loosened, laughter came easier, and Mara leaned forward like she'd been waiting for the cue.
I speak Korean. I studied it in college. I'm conversational.
Ethan looked startled. He hadn't even known. That alone told me something. Mara kept parts of herself hidden until they were useful. The note of the dinner changed. Mara started translating for Ethan in summaries. She controlled what he heard. She controlled what I was allowed to be. And with every laugh in a language Ethan couldn't follow, I felt the room move away from me. Then I noticed a shift. A pause after something Mara said. Mr. Min looked down. Miss Sora's expression tightened. Mr. J's warmth thinned. Mara didn't notice. Mara never notices when she's gone too far, not until the consequences speak louder than she does. Mara tilted her head and smiled, still in Korean. She doesn't understand any of this. We can speak freely. My hands stayed steady on my cup. My face stayed calm. Inside, something cold slid into place. Mara went on, confident. Honestly, she's become a burden. always hovering, always trying to babysit.
Ethan's too soft to stop her. Ethan was checking his phone, still missing the fire in front of him. Mara's tone turned excited, like she was sharing good news. After this contract closes, we'll finally handle it. Assisted living. I already toured a place. We'll tell her it's for safety. She'll resist, but she has no choice. Ethan will agree. The words hit my body before my mind finished processing them. Heat in my face, ice in my stomach, a lifetime of being useful suddenly reframed as being in the way. Miss Sora tried to shut it down. She said something firm, warning Mara this wasn't appropriate. Mara misread that too. Don't worry, she has no idea. Then Mara turned to English and aimed her smile at me.
Evelyn doesn't mind. Do you, Evelyn?
Every eye landed on my face. I smiled the way I smiled at angry parents during conferences. Pleasant, controlled. A mask with teeth behind it. I didn't reveal anything yet. Not because I couldn't, because timing matters. And Mara was still talking. She turned back to Korean, and I heard enough to understand her plan was already in motion. A facility, a narrative for my own good. And the ugliest part? She believed I had no say. That's when Miss Sora looked directly at me, and in perfect English, she asked the question that cracked the room open. She asked if I understood Korean. Silence flooded the space. Mara's smile froze, and I saw something flash behind her eyes. Calculation. Damage control.
Evelyn, don't. Not here.
My teacup touched the table gently. My voice, when it came, was steady. I answered Miss Sora in Korean. Not perfectly, but clearly enough. I said yes, and I said I understood what Mara had been planning. The room didn't explode. It crystallized.
Evelyn, this is a misunderstanding. You're twisting it.
I switched to English, still calm. I said I understood every word. I said she called me confused and a burden. I said she planned to move me away without asking.
You're being dramatic. You always do this. You make everything about you.
There it was. The classic flip. Hurt becomes drama. Cruelty becomes stress. Control becomes concern. The executives didn't let it slide. Miss Sora told Ethan exactly what Mara had said. Mr. J's face turned glacial. Mr. Men looked genuinely ashamed for being in the room. Ethan finally looked up and actually saw us. Not the image of us. Us. Ethan asked if it was true. Mara's mask cracked.
Ethan, you're never here. You don't see what she's like. She interferes. She hovers. She makes our life harder.
My voice sharpened. I said I helped with their children. I said I waited to be invited. I said I respected boundaries. And I said planning my removal wasn't a boundary. It was a disposal plan.
I was trying to protect our family. That's what you don't get. You live in feelings.
I almost laughed because I spent my career grading essays written entirely out of feelings. And I still knew the difference between protection and control. Mr. J spoke about respect for elders and character. He said what he witnessed was deeply troubling. Then he looked at Ethan and made it worse. He said it was also troubling that Ethan didn't know what was happening at home. That question hung in the air like judgment. What else don't you notice?
This is ridiculous. Over an old woman's feelings?
Mara said it loud enough to make the room go colder. Miss Sora stood and challenged her, calm, direct, humiliating in its simplicity. She made Mara's insult hit everyone, not just me. Mara realized too late she'd insulted the wrong room. Fine. I'm sorry, okay? Can we move on? That wasn't apology. That was cleanup. Mr. J asked Mara to leave. Not loudly, not angrily. Quiet. Final. Ethan looked like he'd been punched and woke up mid-fall.
Evelyn, tell them to stop. Tell them you misunderstood. You're going to ruin everything.
And there it was. The real threat. Money. Reputation. Blame. Mara stormed out. Ethan followed, shoulder slumped, like a man leaving a life he hadn't fully examined. The door closed. The air changed, like a headache finally lifting. The executives stayed with me. They asked about my studies, they corrected my phrasing kindly, and for the first time in a long time, I felt seen without being evaluated. We talked about Raymond, about how we plan to travel, about how grief can trap you in smaller versions of yourself. Miss Sora told me continuing to learn honored him. That landed somewhere deep. Then Mr. J surprised me. He mentioned a cultural exchange program his company was launching, elders learning language and culture, building bridges, not collecting trophies. He offered me a spot. And he asked if Chloe might join a youth track. My eyes burned. Not because Mara hurt me, because someone else, someone who owed me nothing, treated my curiosity like something valuable. We toasted to new beginnings, and I felt a door open inside me that I thought grief had locked forever. That night, my phone lit up with Ethan's calls. I didn't answer right away, not to punish him, to let him sit with reality without Mara narrating it for him. When I finally answered, Ethan was wrecked. He said he was sorry. He said he didn't know. He said he asked Mara to stay at a hotel. He said he didn't know what his life was. I told him it was clarity. Painful, necessary clarity. Then he said the deal might be off. He said he was losing everything. I told him he was losing a contract, not his soul. I told him integrity still belonged to him, if he chose it.
He's blaming me, isn't he? Of course he is. After everything I've done.
Mara called me later, too. That voice, sweet on the surface, sharp underneath.
Evelyn, we should talk privately. You humiliated me. You don't understand the pressure I'm under.
I told her pressure doesn't invent cruelty, it reveals it.
You think you're so wise. You're just bitter. I said no. I was done being diminished. The weeks that followed were messy. Separation conversations. Lawyers. Custody discussions that made my stomach churn. Chloe and Noah watching adults pretend everything was fine. Ethan moved closer, not because he wanted free childcare, because he finally understood presence isn't a gift you mail in. He started showing up, actually showing up. He learned his children's routines. He stopped outsourcing family to whoever was convenient. Chloe asked me quietly if I was going away. That question cut deeper than Mara's insults. I told Chloe the truth. I wasn't going anywhere. In the background, something else happened.
Mr. J's company didn't vanish forever. They paused. They watched. They waited to see if Ethan's character matched his pitch deck. Ethan made changes, real ones. He took cultural sensitivity seriously. He stopped ignoring what he didn't want to confront. He even started learning Korean himself, slowly, humbly, like a man finally willing to be a beginner at something important. And then the exchange program details came through for me. A trip overseas, language classes, host family, Chloe included. The kind of someday that finally had a date. When I told Chloe, she screamed and hugged me so hard I laughed. She asked me to teach her more phrases. I told her we'd learn together. On the flight weeks later, Chloe vibrated with excitement. I leaned her head on my shoulder and whispered she was glad I didn't let them send me away. I stared out the window and thought of Raymond. He always said life was short. Don't wait for permission to live fully. I waited too long. I made myself manageable. I thought being tolerated was the price of belonging. It isn't. That dinner taught me something simple and brutal. Some people don't want you gone because you're harmful. They want you gone because you're inconvenient, because your existence reminds them they can't control everything. If you feel invisible in your own life, hear me. You're not too old. You're not too late. You're not a burden. Learn something new, not to impress anyone, not to prove your worth to people who benefit from your silence. Learn because growth is yours. The best moment of that night wasn't embarrassment. It was the second after the room went silent, when Mara realized her assumption had failed, when my voice finally took up space, and I made myself a promise above the clouds. I will never be invisible again.